Hello there and welcome to Joy News today. My name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. Coming up this hour, political scientist warns frequent reshuffle of ministers could have adverse effects on governance. Also to come, airport officials reassure passengers of safety at the Kutuka International Airport, explaining Friday night's blackout did not compromise security. Physically challenged Bernard Quay comes to the aid of motorists as he volunteers as traffic warden during park cuts. Well, I'll bring you details of those stories and plenty others here over the next hour. My name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. Thanks for staying on the program. Now, when the power goes off, the traffic lights stop working, and that's when the volunteers come out. At most busy intersections, these volunteer traffic wardens help keep the situation under control in the absence of the police. Many issues come to play here. What if the volunteer traffic director is inexperienced and gets confused along the line? What if the volunteer is even mentally unsound? And what if the volunteer is a physically challenged person? My colleague Martha Crensolakwa had an encounter with one of these volunteer traffic wardens.
It is Friday night at about 7:15. I have closed from work on my way home. As usual, I anticipate traffic jam in some parts of town because there is blackout in most parts of the city. I have struggled through most of them because it was a case of survival of the fittest in the absence of MTTD officials at most of the busy intersections. Then I got to Flamingo Junction near Matayoko, and the situation was different. There was absolute sanity, as if the traffic lights were functioning. I relaxed and said to myself, at least there is an MTTD official here. But I was wrong. It was a physically challenged volunteer traffic director. I was fascinated and decided to park and observe him from afar. My curiosity drew me closer to find out more.
My name is Bernard Quay.
Okay, how old are you?
I am 34.
Okay.
He tells me he has passion for directing traffic and ensuring sanity on Ghana's roads. I was worried about him though, especially as some of the motorists disregarded his instruction. But after a while, I got used to the fact that when motorists disregard his instructions, he tells them off.
One driver for me, they will just take an advantage. Me, I don't stand here because of the money they give me. I'm not interested. But my heart desire is that they go, there is a free flow. This for hey, hypocrite. Get your hypocrite. When are you going to blow? 58 years.
He tells me he has directed traffic at most dangerous sections of Accra, like First Light, near Kanishin, and so he is not intimidated by drivers at all.
I was once at First Light.
Okay.
Normally I used to direct that place.
Okay.
But there was a time a car knocked somebody.
Oh.
And it was during the dark time.
Okay.
One time too, it was in the midnight when the car just got a crash with each other.
Okay.
And the one who was on top of speed get somersaulted.
Okay, so
I admired his courage and anxious about what may happen to him after hopping on his crutches for as long as the traffic situation persists.
how many hours have you been here already? Today? You've been here just an hour, you call it?
Yes.
That's a long time for a physically challenged person to stand
Oh no,
here.
Some passers-by and residents equally admired his bravery.
You have have been watching him for like 30 minutes. What do you think?
I think he's trying his best to direct them. Because the people are not trying to be civilized. See, so I think he's doing his best.
Are you not worried for him?
I'm worried. I'm really feeling sorry for him.
He shared his greatest wish with me, though he knows that may forever be just a wish.
It's my heart desire that I'm just giving the mandate. I could be in charge of any of Accra traffic, just to make sure there is free flowing order. So that's my heart desire.
As I tried many times to engage him in further conversations, it became more evident that he was so focused on what he was doing, so much so that I was becoming a hindrance to his work. So I decided to collect monies thrown out to him by some drivers scattered on the streets and just allow him continue to fulfill his heart's desire for that moment, making our roads safe for us all. Martha Krensolakwa, reporting for Joy News.
Now, Bernard Quay is an example of the many volunteer traffic wardens we have across some of the streets we here in the capital city. I'm joined over the telephone by DSP Alexander Obin, who is Director of Training and Research with the Police Motor Traffic and Transport Department. Thanks for your time here, DSP.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Why do we seem to have a number of these volunteer wardens on our streets, especially during blackouts?
Thank you very much. It's unfortunate I could not make it to the studio, and so not privy to the specific pictures we are discussing, but I'm told it's a duty point, one of our duty points on the Ring Road West at Flamingo. That is a duty point, and it's a public road, busy, a T-junction, urban road, and normally we experience morning and evening rush hour, and which also falls under Kolebu MPT.
So why were your men not there?
Then it's unfortunate that an untrained hand, highly unprotected Ghanaian, will be endangering him or herself at that particular duty point, whilst those who are trained with public experience and capacity are nowhere to be found. So for us, it's an indictment on the Traffic Police Department at that place, and I think action will be taken. But we must also understand the difficulty that the department in general is faced with across the country with regard to the current power outage, given the number of personnel we have, police officers in general, and the numerous signalized traffic police duty points that require that we are supported with a functioning traffic light that, because of the outages, seem to have a shortfall, and it's creating a problem. But
I see.
That's notwithstanding. I think that we don't expect a physically challenged to be at such critical duty points, directing and controlling. We think that the authorized traffic wardens, including NYEP personnel who are working on that, and Ghana Police Service, Motor Traffic and Transport Department personnel who are trained and paid and clothed and protected, should be seen directing and controlling traffic manually.
Well, DSP, you mentioned that action will be taken. What action exactly?
Oh, I think first of all, it shouldn't be seen that subsequent outages visits we see untrained Ghanaians who are not expected to be there directing, but that police officers will be seen directing, controlling traffic during rush hours and all that. And I think the Director General attention will be drawn to this, and
very well.
The necessary administrative action will also be taken. But the most important thing to Ghanaians is that they should see traffic officer who is trained, clothed, directing and controlling traffic. We will assist motorists in that area of Accra.
Very well. Now, what is very interesting about this particular story is the fact that it isn't that your men were not there. They were there. What they did was that they came in to send this volunteer traffic warden away, not because they wanted to stay and work, but they just did that for the sake of it. They did that and left.
Maybe we also understand that, like I said, I'm not privy to this picture, but it's also possible that these were patrolmen that possibly might have been called by control to go and respond to an emergency scene, and on their way they saw this, and it was also a way to also communicate to all of us that if you are not trained, though you might be doing something.
But DSP, isn't it convenient for you to assume that there was a problem? Essentially, DSP, 1 second. Essentially, there was a traffic situation. If they had met it and Bernard Quay was on the way directing traffic and you sent Bernard Quay around, even if you were coming back from another duty, you have just chanced upon duty. Why would you just leave it?
Well, that's what I said, that we don't know whether they were returning from a duty or they were responding to. If they were responding to emergencies, or then you, on the scale of balance, you want to prioritize. Is that one, or maybe there's emergencies unfolding, what do you call, security threats that beckons the police officers to move and proceed on that order and met it. If that is the case, and I'm saying that, then instantly they could deal with it and proceed in terms of maybe preventing or protecting the physically challenged who was on train and whose life was under immediate threat. And they did it. But like I've said, I believe, I suspect that the police officers have not been deployed at that duty point. And that duty point is also critical on duty roster on daily basis.
I see. Now, DSP,
we expected the Kwalebu police to have posted personnel to direct control traffic, particularly during morning and evening rush hour.
Now, you also tell us that in spite of what may have happened, we should understand that you have challenges with personnel. Now, with the power situation we have here in the country, how are you going to manage going to all the places that need attention, those duty points that need attention? Are you considering perhaps regularizing these volunteers?
I think we are noted that with this power challenge, obviously it will impact on our duty points, and that the motorists require that we show our persons well-clothed, position on time to direct and control traffic. Everybody in police urbanized jurisdiction, both morning and evening, we know that, and we are stretched, and all along we are being supported by these traffic signals, and with this challenge, obviously we always require support from other police and scenery personnel that are deployed. And so in Accra, in certain areas, we are lucky to have other police support from the police patrol teams and the civility personnel who are supporting the traffic personnel that are deployed. But we still think that we need more personnel, trained as traffic personnel. We need more support from the National Youth Employment so that they will come in and augment after initial capacity building to support us at our various duty points and all that, because there are certain areas that we cannot overlook, but irrespective of whether the light is on or no, we need to put physical traffic personnel to direct and control traffic, to overrule in certain instances the light which is even functioning before traffic can be managed at specific duty points, and all these have to be factored in. And so for us, we need more personnel.
I see. DSP, we'll leave it here for now.
To also double their effort.
DSP, thank you very much for your time. DSP Alexander Obey is with the Police Motor Traffic and Transport Department. Now, the Ghana Prison Service has welcomed the Chief Justice's instruction to judges to work overtime to reduce the number of remand prisoners who have been held for long periods without trial. The Chief Justice's instruction followed a Joy News documentary on the plight of hundreds of remand prisoners who appear to have been locked up and forgotten by the system. Chief Public Relations Officer of the Prison Service, DSP Vitalis Aye, refuted claims the Prison Service did little to bring the plight of remand prisoners to light until Joy News' broadcast. He claims the service has put in place measures to address the problem of remand prisoners.
This is something we've been talking about every day, that our prisons need some decongestion. There were people in prisons, especially remands, whose cases have not been heard for a very long time, and they're not guilty yet. So why do we let them suffer? Because we are the ones actually affected by this overcrowding in our prisons. So it's welcoming news to us. Maybe other areas the Chief Justice should let them look also is, as Justice Clemens mentioned, the outrageous sentences given to some people. I mean, if you give somebody 130 years, then it means that you are just giving the person a death sentence.
What do you say to those who say that, I mean, you didn't really do much in terms of, bringing this to light?
Because our doors have been open for a very long time, and we are on radio and TV. We have been writing and letting the world know what happens in the prisons. Again, with the Justice for All program, the paralegal system put in place in the Ghana Prison Service, all our efforts put in place to decongest the prisons. But how fast is that? That's the issue. But sometimes it's about resources. So if Joy came into the scene and they're fast-tracking things, that is fine. But we, on our small way, what we can do, we did it, and we're still doing it.
A human rights lawyer is demanding a review of new judicial filing fees which came into effect this month. Francis Osu says the new fees are too prohibitive and make justice too expensive for many Ghanaians. The fee for filing a notice of appeal against the final judgment at the Court of Appeal, for instance, jumped from 25 Ghana cedis to 100 Ghana cedis. The fee for conducting a search at the Supreme Court will now cost 50 Ghana cedis, up from 5 Ghana cedis. Speaking on Joy News' human rights program, Ice Right, Francis Osu warned the increases will deny many people access to justice.
Lawyers take instructions from clients, and for every good pen there is a disbursement account into which a client is required to pay monies which will be used to do his case. For example, going to court, swearing affidavit, doing official searches, attaching exhibits and all these things. These are monies that the client is required to pay, so the lawyer can rely on to do the case of the client. So obviously, if at first you used to pay a disbursement of, say, 500 Ghana cedis or 1,000 Ghana cedis until maybe for every month or for every 3 months or maybe for a quarter or something, obviously it is going to increase. So the increments, in the court charges and the fees, by all means, is going to put burden on the poor litigant, the one who comes to court to seek justice.
So walk us through the process. Say, I feel my right has been violated, or I feel I have a case against you, for instance, and so I decide I think the court will be the best place for me to seek justice. Now, I know that there's been some review of the court fees. What does it mean for me, the individual? Does it mean even before I start the court process, I must make sure, for instance, we're told that if you're filing an appeal against the final judgment decision, it's now 100 cedis from 25 Ghana cedis. So what exactly does it mean? Walk us through the process.
Well, it means that if you are an individual whose right has been abused, who wants some justice from the court, of course, the first thing that you would have to do is to go through the burden of finding a lawyer whom you are going to pay some consultation fee to. That's the beginning. After paying that consultation fee, depending on the quantum of the kind of damage you've suffered, that you seek the court to compensate you for, you are going to pay a percentage of that money. A while ago, I was having a conversation with one of our senior counsels who was telling me that it was, I think, an estate matter or so, where the estate was worth about 300,000 Ghana cedis. They needed to pay as a fee or the tax on it 10,000 Ghana cedis. You know, remember
before
that,
they can get access to the
yes,
estate.
before they can get, before they can get, I mean, they can actually file the case in relation to that estate. You know, and remember that most times, at the time people come to court, they are already in distress.
Yeah.
Maybe it may be a situation where the person has lost the husband or lost somebody, and they use money for funeral and things, and they are now trying to gather the estate. So if the person, say the man has one house and maybe a couple of cars, and maybe the house is located in quite prime area, and even not even prime, now you can always have about 4 or 5 bedroom house that may cost about 300,000 Ghana cedis. So with because you are living with your husband in that house and he's no more, you would need to cough up that 10,000 for the purpose of filing, and just not the 10,000. Remember, you have to pay your consultation fees, you have to pay the TNT for the lawyers and all that. It's just a tax on the amount, you know, the estate that you are paying. So you would realize that these increments are so burdensome. Honestly, I am begging the Rules of Court Committee. They have a right under the Constitution, Article 156, you know, to continually come up with rules to regulate, you know, court processes, court fees, and so on and so forth. And they have rightfully exercised that power to come up with these variations and amendments, you know, of our fees. But honestly, it is too much. Ask any lawyer who is going about to do filing, it is just too much. And I'm just thinking about not just, if in Accra here we are complaining, then go back to the villages, go to the circuit courts and go to the magistrate courts where people, you know, in these rural poor areas would seek justice by way of going to file various processes. How can they afford? We are going to deny many more people we are going to deny them access to justice because simply they will not have the means to do those filings.
The Health Minister has failed to appear before Parliament's Committee on Government Assurances. Instead of the Minister, the Chief Director of the Ministry showed up for the hearing, much to the consternation of the Members of Parliament. The lawmakers described the Minister's absence as amounting to gross disrespect. Our parliamentary correspondent Elton Broby joins us with details now. Hello, Elton. Hello, Elton.
Hello, I'm here.
Now, why was the minister summoned to appear before the committee in the first place?
Yes, I'm sure you're aware the Committee on Government Assurances, they mainly exist to track promises made by ministers of state and ensure that the promises are adhered to. So the health minister, according to the committee, made promises in the past to construct some parts of the Confanosi Teaching Hospital. Also, the installation of an MRI scan at the Confanosi Teaching Hospital, some polyclinics, the construction of some polyclinics in the Bonahafo region, and also part of the construction works on the Safo Government Hospital, also in the Ashanti region. So the committee, they've been around to check on the progress of work. So the minister was actually called in to respond to the concerns they have regarding the promises made and steps being taken to ensure that those promises are fulfilled. So the minister was invited to appear before the committee last week. He could not make it. Now, at the start of today's hearing, which started at 10 a.m., the chairman of the committee, Emmanuel, read a letter written to the committee by the minister, and the minister apologizes for his inability to appear before the committee last week, and then requested that he be made to respond to the concerns of the committee this week. So that's how come the committee had to sit today, Monday. The invitation to the committee, to the minister said that he appear before at 10 a.m. So at 10 a.m., everybody got seated, including the media. At 11:30, it became apparent clear that the minister was not going to make it. So out of frustration, I'm sure, the chairman of the committee read this particular letter and then allow members to comment on the absence of the minister. Whilst members were commenting, 3 officials from the Ministry of Health, including the Chief Director, appeared. And when they were asked about the whereabouts of the minister, they could not tell. The only response they gave to the committee was to the effect that the minister traveled outside the country for an ECOWAS meeting. He came to Ghana over the weekend only to be told that he's been reshuffled to the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. His deputy is also in Taiwan for a workshop on the National Health Insurance Scheme. And the Chief Director said he could not tell the whereabouts of the minister, but he's been told that the minister is at the moment attending a meeting at the Flagstaff House. When he was asked whether he was saying that on authority, he said he heard somebody saying that the minister is attending a meeting at the Flagstaff House. And this infuriated members of the committee who have described the minister's action as gross disrespect to Parliament. Let me just speak to a member of the committee, Dr. Kwabena Chumniama, who is a member of Parliament for Brekum East and a member of the committee. The committee just concluded a closed-door meeting on what to do about this, no appearance by the health minister. Dr. Niama, you're welcome to the join you. Let me ask you, just finished a committee meeting. Obviously, the comments that came after you went to that closed meeting was that of, fury. Going forward, what is the committee going to do about this, no appearance by the health minister?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and good afternoon to you all. I will say that the committee is really angry, if I should say the least, about the conduct of the Minister for Health, because this is not the first time. As you rightly indicated, the first time he was invited, he did not turn up and there was no explanation. He later wrote to apologize, and the committee requested that he should be met next coming Wednesday. But he wrote to the committee requesting that he had an engagement to do on Wednesday, so the committee should rather see him today. So based on that, we decided we were going to see him today. As you know, Mondays are not sitting days for Parliament. We came in today, we all waited for him, only for him not to appear. And then, as you rightly indicated,
no explanation.
No explanation. The Chief Director came in and he even doesn't know the whereabouts of his own minister. So we felt that his action is a gross disrespect to the Committee of Parliament, for that matter, Parliament. As you know, the Constitution of Ghana, Article 103/6, gives Parliament committees the powers of the High Court by way of invitation of,
Well, Elton.
So we see this action by the minister as not respecting Parliament and the people of Ghana. The committee has taken a serious view of this issue, and then we are going to report to the Speaker and the plenary about the actions of the minister. And we have met at closed door to take a decision that we are going to recommend to them.
Elton.
Because we just had the decision, it will not be prudent for me to put it out there. But I only say that this
Well, there'll be more on this in subsequent broadcasts. Our top stories here on Joy News today. Political scientist warns frequent reshuffle of ministers could have adverse effects on governance. Airport officials reassure passengers of safety at the Kotoka International Airport, explaining Friday night's blackouts did not compromise security. Physically challenged Bernard Kwe comes to the aid of motorists as he volunteers as traffic warden during power cuts. There's more to come. Don't go away. Thanks for staying on. Now, 3 ministers in 2 years at the Sports Ministry. Well, 7 ministers at the Health Ministry in 6 years. These are just examples of how quickly the political leadership at the ministries change. The weekend's announcement of President Mahama's new ministerial appointments has raised a lot of questions about the high turnover rates of ministers. Some analysts say the changes happen too frequently and too fast, making it almost impossible for the ministers to make any impact. At the same time, some analysts believe this could be a strategic move by the president. Here's a discussion I had earlier with Dr. Amarko Ba, a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and David Ogbe, executive director of the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security.
Governance is just like, you are managing human beings and managing institutions. So at a point in time, the president will also have a certain strategic interest in whatever that he is doing. So that strategic interest could suggest that the Ministry of, for instance, take for instance, Mr. Alessandro, now he was the Deputy Minister of Defense, and now he's been pushed as, you know, a substantive Minister for Health. He was, at a point in time, during Mills' time, he was a Deputy Chief of Staff. So if you looked at the portfolio and you are looking at the way things are going, the president wants to position him at a certain place that he thinks that he will be able to execute his task for him. So that is the strategic interest of the president and his governance. So although we have a certain level of repercussions in terms of what they are doing, but I think that the president is also being strategic to make sure that he also achieves, you know, his aim. So governance is a very complex, you know, process. And in politics,
Mr. Bay, just hold on briefly for me. Let me get a comment from Dr. Mwakoba.
Well, look, presidents don't have strategic interests. Countries do. Presidents don't have strategic interests. Countries have strategic interests. What is the strategic interest of moving someone who is a deputy defense minister to help? Tell me, what is it? Does it mean that anyone can occupy any office? David, didn't you learn about Plato?
Well, Doc, let's have Mr. Bay answer that question about strategy. And Mr. Bay, this is for you. What is strategic? I'm repeating Dr. Mwakoba's question. What is strategic about taking the former defense minister to the health ministry?
Yes.
I challenge the views of my lecturer, Dr. Mwakoba, but however, I disagree with him that the president does not have a strategic interest. He has studied American politics very well. I mean, during the time of Obama, 2012, most of the appointments that was done by Obama, people criticized Obama that why is it that these people who do not belong to the stock of the Obama political philosophy, that those people were appointed. One of the things that came from Obama was that politics is a very complex phenomenon. And so people could be appointed to a certain position depending on the situation. So politics, we have a strategic interest in whatever that you do. And so in the global politics, strategy is a very key.
So what it is. That's what I'm asking. What is it here?
Doc, come again. I didn't get that.
Yes, the strategic interest of the president is that the president would like Mr. Alessandro to perform a certain function. Maybe the president has realized
Mr.
that
exactly what function
there, which he wants Alessandro to stop.
Like what?
Strategic interest.
Mr. Bay.
Yes,
like what? What is it that
at the Ministry of Health as we speak? I mean, we could say that the National Health Insurance is not functioning the way we want it to be run. So maybe Alessandro has a global knowledge as far as certain government has managed National Health Insurance for their country. And so we want to bring those ideas on board. There could be other things over there which other ministers haven't been able to execute. And he, looking at the credentials of Alessandro, he believes that Alessandro could execute those tasks. So why don't we give a room for those people to operate for a certain reasonable period of time, and then we'll be able to assess their performance?
But what reasonable amount of time was given the predecessors?
That one, it is wrong. Dr. Ajman Mensah, for instance, he has been at that ministry not quite long ago. So if you are just reshuffling him as, you know, chairs going round, it is wrong. But however,
Doc,
we also need to give a
Mr. Bay, your point is made. Mr. Bay, I think your point is made. Let's just hear Doc briefly so we can wrap up on this conversation. Hello, Doc.
Hello.
Right, Doc.
Yes.
Your comments on what Mr. Bay has been saying so far?
Well, look, as I was saying, presidents, for example, if you have the situation in the health ministry that needs special skills, it is understandable for you to appoint the right person for that situation. That's not what we have here. When you appoint health minister, it's a specialized case. health ministry is similar to something like the Attorney General's department. If you are not a lawyer, you can't do it, right? If you appoint just anyone to a health ministry, it is not only administering the health system in the country, it is dialoguing with people who are highly educated, doctors. If you go there and your level of education, your standard of articulation is not at par with theirs, you can forget it. They will have no respect for
President Mahama signed a 3-man task force to oversee priority projects. The 3 wise men, as they were called, are former Lands Minister Cletus Avoka, Majority Leader Alban Bagbin, and former Employment Minister E.T. Mensah. Their task was to coordinate initiatives including the construction of 200 senior high schools, 10 teacher training colleges, and 1 university for the Eastern region. Little has been heard from them since the appointment, and so when my colleague Kwachi Fred Nyama caught up with Cletus Avoka, he asked what the group had been up to.
We've made some strides. We have made some strides. Particularly in the education sector. You know, the president promised or pledged to build 200 senior high schools. As at now, more than 50 senior high schools are in the offing. They've started in the various districts where they have been earmarked for these schools, and then many more are coming this year. So as far as the education sector is concerned, I think that we have made some strides.
I mean, has the team been at work? Some say you've been dormant.
Well, yes. Well, apparently we might have been dormant to the outside world, but within the vicinity or the precincts of administration between us, where we have our offices in the castle, Osu, and then the various ministries that we deal with, and the Flagstaff House, we have been coordinating.
What exactly have you been doing?
Oh, as far I'm the focal point person for the educational infrastructure. My very good friend and brother E.T. Mensah is the focal point person for the aviation development, building an international airport, etc., and then other aerodromes. And then Bagbin, who was with us, was in charge of the focal point for the health sector. Fortunately or unfortunately, he's now gone to become the majority leader, and therefore his schedule does not easily allow him to pursue this other responsibility that had been given to him. But me and E.T. Mensah have been meeting, we have been discussing, when we have been linking up with the sector ministers, and I have been meeting the Minister for Education from time to time, and then the various technical committees are working. And that's why I've said that as far as the education infrastructure is concerned, is meeting the deadline that the president had set for himself and for us.
So you are directly involved in this entire process, building new senior high schools?
I'm just a focal point for, not directly involved, but the ministry definitely has the personnel on the ground, and then because they have the tech.
What is the exact role you play?
Oh, before we go to the field, we have to meet and discuss, and then agree on which districts qualify for these educational institutions. We normally meet to discuss to see what form or what type of funding would be appropriate for a particular school or a particular district, and then some of these things. But I must say that much of the work is done by the sector ministers more than by the task force.
Some say this.
The Tona Technical Senior High School is reopening today, a little over a month after it was closed down to quell student protests. Returning students are required to pay a levy towards repairing damaged school properties. Students are also supposed to sign a bond of good behavior. The students went on rampage last month after a teacher ordered a female student to publicly take off unapproved uniform. Rafiq Salam is our Upper West Regional correspondent. He's joined me over the telephone with some detail. Thanks for being here, Rafiq.
Amini.
Rafiq, what were the committee's findings?
The committee findings, the committee that was put up, it's headed by a retired teacher in the person of Edwite. They came out with some recommendations, and that recommendation stated that the students are required, each student is required to pay 122 Ghana cedis, because the committee came out reported looking at the damage, the cost of the damage, and which amounted to 170,000 Ghana cedis. In all cities, about 1.7 billion all cities. And so they are saying that the students should share the spoils, and they are saying that students the money should be distributed among the students to pay. And so each student is required to pay 132. Interestingly, on the committee's report, the teacher at the center of the controversy, or the teacher at the center of the incident, the committee found him culpable, but they have not given any sanctions to him yet. And so these recommendations that we are talking about, they are supposed to be implemented by the school board. And this school board is being dissolved. And so the report they are getting from the DCE for Solotona Calabar district in the person of Alaji Moon Isaac Dramana is saying that tomorrow they are going to reconstitute the board, and then after which they are supposed to implement these committee's recommendation. And so the school currently is calm, and the students are going there, are moving there in groups, and they are currently registering. So there's a long queue at the school, and the students majority of the students are back, and they are now writing their names, they are doing the registration.
Now, what do parents and the students together think about the payments, the levy for the damaged properties?
Speaking to some students, they told me that they think that it's on the higher side, but others are of the opinion. Some people in the township are of the opinion that because they think that the damage to the school was too colossal, and they even thought that the fine was too small. But they are saying that they are thinking that the money is on the high side.
What were the recommendations on security as according to the report?
What were?
I'm asking, did the reports recommend any form of security measures in the school?
I have not gotten the detail of the report. But what we know is that they have asked the students to come and sign a bond, and then they are supposed to bring their parents, and they should be of good behavior. And that's the only thing that I can tell you for now on the recommendation.
Well, thank you very much. We'll leave it here for now. Now, the Ghana Airports Company's security at the Kotoka International Airport was not in any way compromised when power supply to the airport was cut for several hours Friday night. The power outage, which lasted several hours, has been traced to a faulty cable. According to the airports company, swift action was taken to resolve the matter when the outage occurred. But with airport operations at a standstill, many passengers we spoke to complained bitterly about how long it took for the problem to be resolved.
Henry Anyemedu.
How long have you been here?
Well, I've been here since 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
Was there light or it was blackout?
There was light initially, and then everything went dark. Yeah.
Like, was there any communication made to you guys?
Initially, there was some scanty communication that the lights were off. They apologized, it will come on, and the system was down. They made about 2 such pronouncements and then nothing. So we were in the line for close to 3 hours and no communication. Nothing was going on. Well, nobody was saying anything. And then what irks me is they expect us to just go back and come back, but they don't know where anybody came from.
Came down all the way from Kumasi. We are going back home and come tomorrow 4:30. And you don't know if you get tomorrow too. There's another flight going.
Because we've been waiting here for 10 hours, no lights. That's a international airport.
No waiting. Go to the other side. You have accreditation to do whatever you are doing here. I'm not touching you. Go to the other side.
He has the right to do what he's doing.
Please.
He has the right to do what he's doing. He's not forcing out. Master, do the coverage. Don't forget about it and ask me to move. Hey, listen, don't push her. Boss. Hello. Can you put up the camera? Put up the camera. I don't know where slow sound. Why what was my 12 hours we about we away.
Somewhere. We are saying that when you are capturing the thing, be very careful. You have right. No. We are capturing. We are standing there. We are standing there. Listen to me. You mean you smash my camera? We are standing there. We are standing there. You mean you smash my camera? We are standing there. Why do you put your hands? We are standing there. You are taking a footage. You seek permission. No, you touch me. You are in trouble. Don't take video of me. Don't touch me. You are in trouble. Let me tell you. Simple. Don't take
Baba Thunder brings us some sports news after this. Don't go away.
Good afternoon, I am Baba Tanda. Welcome to the sports segment on News Today. And straight away, let's get the ground hitting. Joy Sports can confirm members of the Executive Council of the Ghana League Clubs Association, GALCA, have asked their chairman, Alhaji Ali Rachi, and Treasurer George Amwakon to resign or face impeachment for breaching an important administrative procedure which is tantamount to financial impropriety. Now, in addition, they are demanding that an amount of $9,000 contracted as loan from the Ghana Football Association be returned to the GALCA chest, or the two men be prepared to face the full rigors of the law. GALCA chairman Alhaji Rachi and the treasurer George Amwakon reportedly used the association's name to contract a loan of $9,000 from the Ghana Football Association without the knowledge of the other members, and the two officials have also been unable to produce receipts to indicate what the said money was used for. And the Executive Council held an emergency meeting last Thursday to discuss the issue and make its decision known to the chairman and treasurer, following which a move will be initiated for the General Assembly to vote for the final decision. Away from GALCA's issues, Ghana surrendered top spot in Group D at the African Youth Championship after losing 1-0 to new leaders Mali yesterday in Mburu in the final group phase of the ongoing African Youth Championship. Now, the Black Satellites needed just a draw to head the pool after 2 wins against South Africa and Zambia. Head coach Celestete actually made 4 changes to the starting lineup, and the gamble did not pay off. My colleague Benedict Osudankwa joins me on phone now to do a post-mortem of the game. Hello, Benedict. Bonjour. Hello, Benedict.
Okay.
Bonjour, Benedict. Hello, Benedict. All right, so let's just... Benedict, can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, now have you heard any reasons being attributed to our loss to Mali in yesterday's final group game?
Well, no reason has been given to anybody here. It's just that the team, actually, Coach Celestete and the officials, they're not too happy with yesterday's performance. Initially, they wanted to win and top the group, but, you know, world football has its own ways. At times, you play bad, at times you play football and you lose. But what happened yesterday was that the team did not live up to expectations. And for me, it has been their worst performance so far at this tournament. You know, the officials and the coach, they told you that they were not too pleased, especially Palmer, that's the head of the management committee. But he was not too pleased with the performance of the team yesterday. But the team would not have forced blame to anybody and believe they can just work on, you know, what happened yesterday going forward, and they have a big game against Nigeria, which is on Wednesday.
At this juncture, do we have any injury worries as we get ready to face Nigeria on Wednesday?
No, all the players in camp are fit. They just came back from their recovery training just in about 20 minutes ago, and they're getting ready to, you know, leave in both for Dakar, where we'll be playing Nigeria. Actually, the Nigerians were also in the same hotel, came at the Black Satellites. They left some few minutes ago, so the team have just arrived from their recovery training, and they're getting ready, you know, to leave here from Dakar for the game on Wednesday. So we talk about injury situations here. All the players are fit. And Tete, who could not play a part in yesterday's game after picking up a knock in our game against Zambia, he's fit and he trained with the team.
So, Benedict, you've seen the Black Satellites play. I'm sure you've monitored the Nigerian side a little bit as well. What do you think Ghana's chances against Nigeria will be?
Well, going forward into that game, the team, they are aware of what's at stake. They know clearly what the Nigerians are capable of doing. They've seen the Nigerians play in this tournament, and for them, they believe the Nigerians are the best team in this tournament. It's not only about the Black Satellites. Almost all the teams here, everybody that is monitoring this tournament, you know, have started the Nigerians as favorites of the tournament. But you know, this football and the tournament, and between Ghana and Nigeria, anything can happen. Remember the last edition of the tournament in South Africa where Ghana met Nigeria. It was a similar thing. At that point, the Nigerians were informed. They played so well at the tournament. But, you know, in the semi-finals, Ghana were able to beat Nigeria, you know, to qualify for the finals with penalties. So the players and officials, they believe that, you know, against Mali, they didn't play that well. They will admit that the team wasn't at their best. But going forward now, they have to start thinking about the Nigerian game, which they started actually yesterday and from today. So they are very much aware of what is at stake and what's ahead of them on Wednesday. So for the players and the officials, they are very ready and they are preparing towards that day.
Benedict, thanks very much. We'll get back to you in our subsequent bulletins for more updates. Au revoir. Right, that's your sports for now. My name is Baba Tanda. Have a good afternoon.
Our top stories here on the program. Political scientists warns frequent reshuffle of ministers could have adverse effects on governance. Airport officials reassure passengers of safety at the Kotoka International Airport, explaining Friday night's blackout did not compromise security. Physically challenged Bernard Quay comes to the aid of motorists as he volunteers as traffic warden during power cuts. For find more news on myjoyonline.com. Thank you very much for staying through the hour. My name is Kamini Nyamani. I'm going to have a good week. Enjoy the rest of our broadcasts.